Hey guys, alright, we are back with another Armchair Historian video, this time, Evolution of German Army Uniforms, Animated History. I'm assuming this is going to be an entire video dedicated to the evolution of military uniform, at least in the German Army. So, yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious what this is. I don't know. I'm just curious. Let's go ahead and just jump right in.
In 1871, the Kingdom of Prussia, along with many German states such as Baden, Bavaria, and Württemberg, fights a war for unification against the Second French Empire. The many culturally distinct kingdoms, duchies, and principalities, whose only commonality is language, for the most part, form into a single nation-state, the German Empire. By the end, Paris is surrounded, and Napoleon III is captured. Embracing the military aesthetics of the period, including brightly colored uniforms, the most iconic feature of this era in German military history is the Pickelhaube, or pointed helmet. The helmet is actually one of the first pieces of modular gear issued to soldiers en masse, with the spike being attached via a screw thread that makes it easy to remove and replace with other decorations signifying different ranks or positions. Given the size of the German Confederation before unification, many different firearms are in use, such as the Prussian breech-loading Drese needle gun, the Bavarian Portewilz gun, the Saxon Jägerbosche M1865, and many others. But the ambitions of Germany in the 19th century extend far beyond the shores of Europe.
Oh yeah.
A single glance at the German colonial uniforms immediately shows a much greater commitment to practicality over style, with drab colors and simple designs featuring minimal decoration to distinguish officers from enlisted men. The expensive Pickelhaube is often replaced by a slouch hat with a prominent cockade, while practical additions such as bandoliers and adjustable pouches are much more common sights. Like other colonial powers, Germany makes extensive use of native levies known as askaris. These men wear even simpler uniforms made of khaki, in contrast to the more expensive corduroy worn by German troops stationed in the colonies. Officers who could actually afford to have their clothes laundered on a regular basis still wear more elaborate outfits made of white or gray wool, with decorative piping on the wrists to distinguish themselves from the common soldiers. Lastly, the German troops operating in East Asia wear khaki uniforms that are adopted from several other designs and recolored to help men deal with local temperatures. As we move into the Great War, we immediately see a reduction in flamboyant decorations and bright eye-catching colors such as blue and green. The Pickelhaube remains standard issue until 1916, but the leather construction is simplified to one of sheet steel, which simultaneously gives better resistance to shrapnel and other hazards. Within just a few months, the need to simplify uniforms for mass production has completely overtaken even the most long-established army traditions, and there is little to distinguish the officers besides a few.
And can we talk about the subtle detail here? Trigger control on the officers. Like, that's such a subtle detail, and it doesn't have to be there, but they drew it, and they have
details.
The
Pickelhaube is still worn during ceremonial occasions, but most officers prefer simple caps known as Feldmütze. During 1916, a new, simpler, all-metal helmet known as the Stahlhelm starts to replace the Pickelhaube as the standard infantry headgear. Meanwhile, the Gewehr 98 has become the standard issue rifle, a bolt-action design that would remain in service until 1935, at which point it is replaced by the Karabiner 98K. The next year will see the issuing of canister gas masks, which limits the effects of chemical warfare, and the Stielhandgranate will make its first appearance. Also of note is the MP-18, carried by the Sturmtruppen. This is one of the first submachine guns issued to troops in large numbers.
Transition time.
But after its defeat in the First World War, this is what the German army looked like. Well, besides for the 100,000 soldiers, down from the 1.9 million in the First World War that they were allowed to keep for defense purposes. These men were part of the Reichswehr, or Realm Defense Force, and their uniforms are as basic as you might expect. By now, the Stahlhelm has completely replaced the Pickelhaube, and apart from minor visual modifications, it will remain in common use until 1992. The German rearmament programs of the 1930s give birth to a slew of new uniforms, representing the many different branches of the revitalized Wehrmacht. While the simple designs used by the Reichswehr are retained in some capacity, branches like the Fallschirmjäger paratroopers and the Waffen-SS get specialized designs, reflecting their status as elite units. Given the global nature of the Second World War, two men fulfilling the exact same duties might be wearing completely different uniforms depending on where they're stationed. For example, Erwin Rommel's famous Afrika Korps wear light tan or green overalls that help them blend into desert environments and prevent men from dying of heat stroke while weighed down with heavy kit. Speaking of heavy kit, the MG42 also strikes terror into the hearts of its enemies this year, quickly becoming one of the most instantly recognizable weapons of the war, both from its design and distinctive sound. In contrast to those fighting in Libya and Egypt, men stationed on the Eastern Front pack on as many layers as possible to avoid the terrible cold of the Russian winter. By now, camouflage patterns are becoming more and more common, especially among elite units like the SS Panzergrenadiers. The Germans also use a huge array of weapons, from the basic Karabiner 98K used by most infantrymen to the MP40 machine pistol used by non-commissioned officers, commissioned officers, and specialists. Following the disaster in the East that resulted in the annihilation of Army Group Center, the German army begins fielding a new type of soldier, the Volksgrenadier. Although often confused with the Volkssturm militia, these are professional soldiers drawn from various branches of the Wehrmacht, or called back into service after being discharged due to injury. At this late stage of the war, they are often equipped with automatic weapons like the Sturmgewehr 44 and disposable anti-tank weapons such as the Panzerfaust. It would also be criminal not to mention the iconic uniforms of the SS, produced by the Hugo Boss company. It is a common misconception that Boss himself designed them, but in fact he is only the producer. The true designer of the uniform and most other SS regalia is an artist called Karl Diebitsch, who is also a member of the organization. After the defeat of Germany in the Second World War, the country was divided between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union and was demilitarized until 1954. But after West Germany joined NATO, they were allowed to create the Bundeswehr, a citizens' army, whose simple uniforms are designed to emphasize their duty as defenders of the new German democracy. Naturally, these new uniforms are purposefully created to bear no resemblance to Nazi iconography, and even the Stahlhelm is redesigned to look less like the version worn by the Wehrmacht infantry. Their equipment remains mostly German manufactured, however, with the Heckler & Koch G3 becoming the standard issue battle rifle in 1959. East Germany also has its own military, known as the National Volksarmee, or National People's Army. Armed and equipped by the Soviets, the NVA is regarded by many officers in NATO as a highly effective and well-trained fighting force. Unlike the Bundeswehr, the NVA uniform is surprisingly similar to that of the old Wehrmacht, featuring similar colors and materials. Even the helmet is based on a Nazi prototype of the Stahlhelm that was not adopted during the war. Their arsenal also consists of an eclectic mixture of Wehrmacht and Soviet firearms, such as the Kar-98K and the Mosin Nagant. By the 1960s, these are mostly replaced by licensed copies of the classic Soviet AK, usually the AK-74 or AKM variants. Following the reunification of Germany in 1990, the NVA is integrated into the Bundeswehr, and their old uniforms are discarded in favor of modern combat fatigues decorated with fleck-tarn camouflage patterns. In 1997, the venerable G3 is replaced with the much more modern G36, again made by Heckler & Koch. The 90s also saw the complete replacement of the Stahlhelm with the Gefechtshelm M92, made out of high-durability synthetic composites. With modern wars increasingly taking place in desert environments, the Bundeswehr are often seen wearing desert pattern camouflage and various accessories designed to make life easier in hot, arid environments such as in Afghanistan. Protective goggles are frequently used, as are face masks and balaclavas.
That the whole video?
Now that our list is complete, let's return to our sponsor, Squarespace.
Alrighty. Alright, let's take one final look at the Bundeswehr in Afghanistan. Alright, that was the evolution of German army uniforms Evolution of German army uniforms, animated history by Armchair historian. This was really well fucking done. Oh my god. The animation, pretty good. The transitions, smooth. The delivery of information, magnificent. The information present, everything that you needed to know. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not sitting here wondering really any questions. I'm just sitting here like, oh yeah, I got what I was expecting, got what I wanted. I learned about the evolution of German army uniforms. Yeah, like it did what it needed to do. I like this. I like this video. I hope they make more videos kind of like this, because this is kind of like I'd say this is kind of niche, kind of topic. Like, who the heck, like, yeah, who makes a video on the evolution of a country's army uniforms? That's not something you see, but they did it, and it worked, and I liked it. And so I kind of hope that they make more of these on other countries. That would be pretty neat to see. Yeah, that was the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to leave a suggestion down below for what you want to see me react to next. Hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.